And so with respect to my sentencing, after taking in consideration all the matters before the court that are appropriate under the principles and purposes of sentencing, the court's going to impose the following sentence. Starting with count 2, as found guilty on count 2 of murder, it's a life with parole eligibility at 15 years. On count 3, the murder charge under the B section, it's life with parole eligibility at 15 years. And those are the maximum sentences that could be handed down on those 2 counts. On count 4, with respect to the Reagan-Toke sentencing guidelines, count 4 and count 8 are both felonies of the second-degree felonious assault. We also speak to count 5, which was the endangering children as a felony of the second degree. And then we speak to count 7 and 6. The state and I have agreed that I will move forward with count 7. Under count 7, under the Reagan-Toke sentencing guidelines on the attempted murder in count 7, the court's going to hand down the maximum sentence of 11 years as the minimum sentence to the indefinite sentence of 16 and a half years. Again, I've outlined the Reagan-Toke guidelines and the reporting requirements for post-release control that will be controlling on all other felonies of the second and first degree, this being the highest level. I've outlined the 5 provisions, as I noted for the record already. And then with respect to the count 4 and 8, the maximum sentence is 8 years. I'll hand down that sentence. Count 5, 8 years. Count 6, 11 years. Count 8, 8 years. And then as indicted, count 10, which would be a 6-month sentence on the misdemeanor charge. Regarding aggravated murder and finding the defendant guilty of aggravated murder by this jury, the court's going to hand down a sentence of life without parole. I'll run every other sentence concurrent to life without parole. Ms. Ellis, you'll be given credit to 509 days of the time that you've served. I'll order you in the custody of the sheriff to transport you to Marysville Correctional Facility. I'll also indicate that fines, fees, and court costs will be waived with respect to this sentence. In addition to the verdict that has been handed down by this jury and the sentence that the court handed down, Ms. Ellis, you have a right to appeal both the sentence and the conviction in this case. You can do that by filing a notice of appeal with the clerk of courts within 30 days of this sentence. If you're unable to pay for the cost of an appeal, you have the right to appeal without payment of costs. If you're unable to obtain counsel for an appeal, I'll appoint counsel to represent you. If you're unable to pay the cost of documents necessary, they are provided to you without cost. You have a right to a notice of appeal filed timely on your behalf. And Ms. Ellis or counsel, do you wish to appeal both the sentence and the conviction handed down in this case?
Yes, Your Honor. Another objection for the record and appoint counsel for the appeal.
I'll note your objection regarding my sentence, and knowing that she's unable to afford counsel, I'm going to appoint the public defender to represent her with respect to her appeal. Again, noting for the record, all counts will be run concurrent to each other, with the life without parole being count 1 sentence. I'll waive all fines, fees, and court costs, give her credit for the 509 days that she served, in addition to time while she awaits her transportation to Marysville Correctional Facility for Women. Is there anything further from the state of Ohio before we recess?
No, Your Honor.
Anything on behalf of Ms. Ellis?
No, Your Honor.
All right, we adjourn. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor.
And I'll just note, I do have the microphone on. If you could just speak loudly and clearly, take your time if you're going to read from something. If you don't mind just stating your name for the record and just spelling it for the record.
All right, well, my name is Jared Wood, Jared Wood.
Very good. I'll ask the advocate maybe just to push that up a little.
Is this better?
Sure.
All right.
And thank you. I'll hear from you this morning.
Oh, thank you. I am here today to speak on behalf of my son, Julian Miles Wood, who is no longer here to speak for himself and I am thankful for you to be giving me this opportunity to do so. It's hard to know where to start when talking about him, so I guess I'll start with letting you know that our family is no stranger to the struggles of cognitive or behavioral differences. Our oldest child has autism. He was actually considered nonverbal, and it wasn't until he was about 7 years old when he became verbal. We tried everything we could to help as parents, but who I should say, actually got him to break free and open up and talk to the point to where we have actually a hard time getting him to stop now, was Julian himself. Julian had a special way with people to get them to grow and open up and just have fun. That was the kind of kid he was. He was funny, outgoing, fearless, and full of life, love, and laughter. The energy he brought to the world was boundless. I even called him my copper top baby because his hair wasn't quite the same color as red as mine, but it was more of a copper color like the battery. Julian loved dinosaurs, and outside of saying hi, Mom and Dad, dinosaur was his first word, which actually shocked all of us with how big of a word it was at such a young age. He also loved Halloween, so much so that he chose to be a dinosaur every year without fail, and he would even find his old costumes throughout the year and put them on even though they no longer fit, not letting us take them off until it was bedtime, where we would have to put on his dino pajamas. However, these are moments that we'll never get the chance to share with him again. Julian had a way of letting you know he was near, like when he woke up in the morning, usually before daylight, with his thundering footsteps as he walked down the hallway from his room. That is when I knew it was my cue to get up and to go get him some leche, which is milk. Another way Julian made his presence known was by taking his brother's toys and running around laughing because he knew he couldn't catch them, and it was funny to take big brother's things, which unknowingly helped his brother find his voice and start speaking up for himself. He always knew when you were down or feeling some kind of way, and he would do in his own way what he felt you needed to feel better. For me, when he felt I was down or had a rough day, he would get his brother and they would tag team wrestle me and just beat me up. We would roughhouse a little on the bed here and there, and he would also run into the kitchen whenever I came home from work to greet me. Sometimes I would tease him by hiding behind the doors, and he would look stumped to where I was. And I would jump out roaring like a dinosaur, and he'd roar back and then punch me in the stomach and go, "Ah, you scared me, Dad." For my wife, he would snuggle deeply and tell her he loved her. And sometimes he would fearlessly climb onto the counter and go into the cabinets and pull out a box of cake mix and help her make a cake. And for his grandmother, he was glued to her side. They had their inside jokes. He learned to love all the odd old candies like black licorice or candy corn. And for his brother, he would sit with him and watch videos on his iPad, so Big Brother knew he was near. He was just so smart and funny and knew things that most little kids didn't know. Like whenever we would go in the car, he would always try to give us directions to McDonald's because he always wanted French fries. Another thing he always wanted to do was help us with errands. If he saw me or my wife putting on our tennis shoes, he would run and put his shoes on and wanted to go and just to spend time with us. Now, these are things we will never get to do with him again. What I am most sad about now is not just the time I don't get to spend with him, but the time his brother, his sister, his mother, his grandma, and all of our family that doesn't get to spend with him, with the time again and we are all robbed of that opportunity. He was on the path to be a big kid, which is why I called him my big guy too. He was going to be the protector of his brother and sister. That part was evident since the moment I brought Julian and his brother to the hospital to meet the new baby sister and see their mother. Julian was so in love with her. He wouldn't leave her alone or take his eyes off her while we were there. And he even tried feeding her while she laid in the crib sleeping. His sister won't get to know the amount of love he had for her other than from what we tell her. She didn't even get a full 2 months with him before he was taken from us. When we had our daughter, I finally felt I had a full life. I had everything I ever wanted. A beautiful, loving wife, 2 sons and a daughter. It didn't even last all of 2 months before that monster took him from us. Now all of our hearts will forever be missing a piece, and it's up to all of us to keep his light shining, even though his star is gone. With that, I would like to thank you for taking the time to hear me out and speak about our son and what he was able to give this world in such a short time. And thank you again to the prosecution, Anna and Julian, for fighting so hard for our boy and my wife. And thanks to the jury for getting it right. And thank you to the North Olmsted Police Department for all the work you guys did with helping on that day. And to the community for the continued support. We will be forever grateful. With all that being said, to Judge Russo, I ask you to do what's best for my family and the community, so she has no opportunity to commit these heinous crimes again. I'm asking you to give her the maximum sentence possible, life without parole. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'll hear from you, Margo.
Did I say my name?
Well, sure. I'm sorry.
My name is Margo Wood, Margot. I watched my son take his first breaths when he was born, and I watched him take his last in my arms, covered in his blood. A mother should never have to bury their child. A mother is supposed to go first, not her children. A mother shouldn't receive her child's death certificate at 3 years old, and his cause of death is by homicide. That woman murdering my son replays in my head every single day. It is my living nightmare. The last thing I will ever hear from my son is his scream, the sound of his pain and fear before he was gone. And I can still see the terror in his eyes, and it haunts me every day. He was my baby boy, and the day he died, a part of me died with him. My older son has autism. He doesn't fully understand why his little brother, his best friend, isn't here anymore. He asks us about heaven and if we can just wake up baby Julian so he can come home and be here with us. He thinks if he goes to the hospital, he can go and see him. When his dad goes to run an errand or leaves for work, my son worries that he won't come home. I have to call my husband on video chat so he can make sure his dad isn't dead. The days Jared and I were here for trial, he thought we both died. So my aunt and my mom had to reassure him that we were okay and we would be home later. When his friends or teachers at school are absent due to being sick or having appointments, when they come back, he runs to them and gives them a big hug and yells, "You're alive." You have not only hurt me, you have not only taken away my youngest son, you have caused trauma to my other children. My daughter was only 2 months old when she killed my sweet boy. Julian gave his sister all the love and affection a big brother could ever give in that short time. Coming home from preschool, he would take off his backpack and run to give her a big hug and a kiss. He helped with bath time, stood next to me during diaper changes, and would help with giving her a bottle. They were like two peas in a pod, Velcroed together. Wherever she was, he was right next to her. My daughter is 18 months. And now she only knows going to the cemetery to see her brother. She will never get another hug, a kiss, or a cuddle from her older brother. He is now just her guardian angel. She will never know how much he loved her and how happy he was to see her when she was born. Only the stories that we tell her. Julian brought laughter, light, and love in our home with his infectious laugh. He helped with my oldest son in so many ways with communication and play. Our home isn't as loud and chaotic anymore, not the way it used to be. There's no one playing with dinosaurs and chasing around his big brother with them. My boys aren't wrestling in the living room and dancing to the Minions movies. There is no one dressing up for Halloween as a dinosaur. My son would have been 5 in 2 days. She took that from us. She took birthdays, holidays, milestones, graduations, seeing what kind of man he would have turned into. No grandchildren, no nieces or nephews for his siblings. When you murdered him, you took those potential lives, moments, and memories from all of us. If I want my family to be whole, we have to go to the cemetery where all of my children can be together. My oldest doesn't like going because it makes him sad. Now when I take pictures of my son, it's just his name on a wall, surrounded by flowers and dinosaurs that people leave him. Instead of taking photos of him making funny photos, cute smiles, or laughing pictures. I hate you with every fiber of my being. Because of you, I live in constant fear. For months, I couldn't leave my home. If I did leave my home, I needed someone by my side, and even then I was stricken with fear. I don't take my children to the store by myself anymore because I fear something might happen. I leave my kids at home with my mom and go by myself because if anything happens, it'll just happen to me. I hate that I'm here and my son is gone. Just because you have a mental illness doesn't mean you can use that to justify you murdering my son. What you did was unforgivable, and it can never be taken back. You deserve to go to jail for the rest of your life, so you can't hurt anyone else. You don't deserve a second chance. You don't deserve mercy. You didn't give my son any. You belong in prison where there is no chance of you getting out. The jury got it right. When they read the verdict that you were guilty on all counts, it felt like the first time I could actually breathe in the last 499 days. Because I knew in my heart that you were going exactly where you need to be, in prison. You don't deserve the luxury of a mental facility where you can earn privileges and possibly be released back into the world. That's too good for you. The world is safer with you behind bars. Judge Russo, I urge you to give her the maximum penalty without parole, so she has no chance of hurting another innocent soul like my sweet baby boy, Julian.
Thank you.
We have tremendous respect for the process, the jurors' verdicts, that family in there, what they've gone through. No one wins in this situation. But I meant it when we said that we respectfully disagree with that verdict. And, you know, you have to understand that because demonstrated mental illness all the way up until that day. Somehow just on that day, she's not mentally ill. And then following, we had to have her restored. We couldn't even communicate with this woman. So just one day out of 6 months, 8 months, she's okay. So we push back a little bit on that. And the difficulty with this kind of case is that jurors don't have the opportunity to understand that not guilty by reason of insanity, it doesn't mean that a person walks back out into the street or into the parking lot like what they think. We're not allowed to discuss that during the course of a trial. So that is certainly a disadvantage, and we just hope that the law changes as it relates to that aspect of it, because this kind of case is so unique that jurors should know that hospitalization could last as long as a prison sentence could last. And until they know that, it's going to be difficult because no one's going to let anyone walk back out into the street after having taken the life of a 3-year-older. So that's what I say, and you know, again, we respect the process, and she has a right to appeal it.
And you are appealing, correct?
Yeah, the
That's
public
correct.
defender has been appointed, so.
Yeah, I mean,
that'll work.
I know that somebody else will be handling that, but, and it sounds maybe obvious to some of us, but on what grounds would the appeal be?
Well, I mean, the appellate lawyer would have to look at the weight of the evidence.
Manifest weight and sufficiency of the aggravated murder. She didn't plan that murder. So when you talk about prior calculation and design, there was no prior calculation for her to go into that grocery store. But for a few things happening, Ms. Woods would not even have been there. So I think manifest weight and sufficiency, and the public defender does a great job at doing appeals, so they'll look for whatever avenue they can appeal.
And just to be clear, is she appealing her conviction and sentence, or both?
Both.
Both.
Both. And the other thing that I'll say about this is that, I mean, as you stand here, you all followed the trial. What is the rational motive in this case as to why she took that child's life? And if the answer is because she was angry about money not coming back from the police, then again, we push back a little bit with respect to that, so.
She didn't say much. What did she say to you before you came out there or after, at the end here? I mean, I guess maybe the question I'm really trying to ask is, why didn't we hear more from her?
Well, I can't tell you what she and I discussed, or what she discussed with Mr. Johnson and I, but we know that she's remorseful, and we know that she feels horrible about this event, and that's probably where I should leave it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Anything on that Ms. Ellis would like to speak?
I just want to say I apologize. I'm sorry for what happened.
Okay. All right, you can be seated. Thank you.
Well, thank you for all coming this morning. I think justice was served in this case, folks. I think mental illness is a real issue in our community, and I think the judge brought that to light. But I also believe that good people that come down here and do jury service and care about their community spoke loud and clear in this case. We have never disputed that Miss Ellis had a mental illness. There was never a dispute to that. The dispute was, did she appreciate the wrongfulness of her actions? The jury saw through all that. You folks were here with us. You listened to the testimony of the doctors. If we can't rely on doctors, who can we rely on in making our case? So the kudos really are not for us or the prosecutor's office. The kudos are for the doctors that spend painstaking time meeting with these folks and making their decisions. So thank you to the community and thank you to you folks.
And I know you've tried a lot of difficult cases, but was this one of the most difficult?
They're all difficult when they are with children. Children mean a lot to this community, as do the elderly. They're vulnerable folks. They need a voice. And I guess for the last so many years, I've been their voice. And my colleague and I were privileged to have been assigned this case and to prosecute this case. But every children in this community means something. And if we're their voice, then so be it. We're their voices.
Today we literally heard the family let out a sigh of relief after the sentence was read down. Can you explain just what this means to them?
I think it means to them that Julian will never come back, but they can rest assured, and their neighbors can rest assured that somebody else in the community isn't going to be doing what Bionca Ellis did, with or without a mental illness, folks. I mean, these were people that were going grocery shopping to make supper for the dad who was coming home from work. How many people in our community do this day in and day out? And unfortunately, she wasn't able to bring that little boy home because of one person's actions. So the sigh of relief, you know, we never give families closure because we can't bring anybody back from the dead. What we ensure is that punishment is dispensed and that it's dispensed fairly. This is not about anything else but someone who killed a child.
What did you think of Bionca's apology?
It was her right to do that.
And North Olmsted Police, their investigation was very helpful to you.
Oh, their investigation was thorough. Everything, they unearthed things about Bionca Ellis that she probably didn't know she had in her background. They were very, very thorough. They were very, very committed. And like the detective said, this affected even the most senior members of their police department. When a child's involved, you guys, it just changes the dynamics for everybody, whether prosecuting or defending. It just changes the dynamics. It always has and it always will.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.